Today my guest is Cassandra Davis Beach, MBA, CRS. She is a teacher, geez, let me start over. Sorry about that, Abby.
That's okay.
Abby's the one doing the, so 3, 2, 1. Today my guest is Cassandra Davis Beach. She is MBA, CRS. You are a certified teacher of, she gave me a list, guys. All of these classes, I don't know how many are on there, but it's unbelievable.
Quite a few.
Quite a few. You've taught over 30,000 people in a 30-year career. You've sold hundreds of houses, had thousands of clients. I mean, the list goes on and on. And today we're going to talk about a little bit of a shifting market. We're going to talk about how the industry is changing for the agent, how they're going to deal with it, what your thoughts are on the best way for them to navigate it. So before we get into that, give me just a little background. 30 years ago, you got started in real estate. Obviously, you've liked it. You've stuck with it. So what has kept you along so for the ride, and why teaching?
Well, the why.
Yeah.
The why is what kept me in it. My mother was a single parent, Lewis, and I can remember when she bought her first house. And I had my own sidewalk, my own backyard, and my whole confidence level changed. I was a different kid. And I just wanted that for just about everyone I met, and I thought, man, real estate is where I need to be. I was well set on doing something else. And a friend of mine said, girl, have you ever thought about getting into real estate? And I didn't really know anything about it. And so I went ahead and got a license, didn't think that much about the economy. And when I got licensed, interest rates were 16%. So it was a real struggle to get that business up and going.
No kidding. So, I mean, obviously people complain about the rates now, 16%. That's completely different. But you got clients, you persevered.
Yeah.
Here you are.
Yeah, and I can tell you what helped me. Number one, it was 16% back then, but homes were a lot less.
Right.
It was not out of the norm to be able to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home for $50,000.
Right.
And so now that is not the case when we look at the mid-price home in Dallas County being almost $400,000, and in Collin County being closer to $500,000, the mid-price. So that changes everything. And then we look at an interest rate that's almost 7%. Then you're looking at a total house payment of being well over $4,000. And so affordability becomes a very huge issue when it comes to buying a home. So yeah, things were different, but what really got me started, I took an ABR class. That's the Accredited Buyer's Representative class, and that changed my life. I started giving seminars everywhere. So when I got into real estate, I was very young, and a lot of the people I knew remembered me when I rode my bicycle, so they weren't trying to use me. And so I started giving seminars. I gave them at churches, community centers. I joined a chamber of commerce, and boy, before I knew it, I had more buyers than I knew what to do with, and some of those buyers had homes that needed to be sold, and that's what got my business going.
And it's prospered ever since. So you got, obviously, you kept that going because you've taught over 30,000 people. You're a teacher at multiple associations of realtors. I've been to your classes many times.
Yeah,
right?
Well, a lot of the numbers came from Champions. I was at Champions School of Real Estate for almost 7 years, and actually met one of the representatives from Champions when we were at an economic forecast. And during that time, David Fair was alive, and you had Dr. Gaines was there, and it's a big economic forecast that they did every year. And one of my colleagues said, have you ever thought about teaching? There's Champions over there. And I'm like, well, never really thought about it. And they are the ones that gave me a chance. And I remember my very first class, and it just came so natural. I'm like, this is what I need to continue to do.
Well, a lot of people have appreciated it. The CE credits, everything you do, you've got an enormous amount of accreditations. So, but the main topic of today, let's jump right into it with NAR. the changing of how agents get paid. So tell me what happened, why there is a change, and then what can an agent expect as a buyer's representative?
Well, I think what happened has been brewing for years now. And
Because it didn't used to be the 3-3 split. It used to be something else, right?
right, right. And there really isn't a 3-3 split. I think that, again, is a myth. We've always been negotiable. We've
course.
always been negotiable. And I can't tell you when I've made a full, what they consider, what people are saying in the media is full compensation. I can't tell you when I last made that, because we've always negotiated and we've always tried to meet our clients where they are. But many times a person that's buying from you also is selling with you. You understand? So that's where that negotiation comes in. So years ago, technology did not have the role that it has now in our industry. Technology has changed everything. And so in the beginning of real estate and technology, NAR owned Realtor.com. Then they sold it. And of course, when we look at some of the other large giants of technology that are in the industry, like Zillow, most of our clients will start their search online. They will start their Googling online before you ever get them.
That's so convenient.
And so, yes, absolutely. And so a lot of things came up during, I think, over the years. And back in 2017, I believe it was, and don't hold me to this, is when the DOJ started knocking on the door with cooperation, that word. I don't even like that word now. That we cooperate with each other. I think we work together for that common goal. And what is that goal? You know, the client.
Right.
The buyer wants a new home. The seller wants their proceeds. And so what are we doing? They hire professional experts. That's the realtor. All realtors are not the same.
No.
And we'll talk about that later, but I think that's what happened when you look at that whole cooperation thing and fair cooperation, and the fact that NAR owns the MLS. So that cooperation is brought by us being together on the MLS. And we can see what compensation is being paid by the listing agent, not the seller,
Right.
by the listing agent, who's already negotiated that fee in the listing agreement. And so then that amount that is put in the MLS is the amount that we pass on to our buyers. The issue is, now that it's extrapolated, it's difficult for a buyer to understand, because that's not what they've normally done. It's always been what? Part of the price. It's been part of the price. And I think that's what we're going to see moving on, is both parties understanding that very concept that has guided the whole thing. It's always been the cost of goods sold. Brokerage is a service. A home is a good, okay?
Of course.
And when you look at it like that, you have to understand that when I list the home, what am I doing? The number one thing the seller wants from me is what? They want to know what their proceeds is.
Always.
So we give them a
Yeah.
net proceeds. How much money am I going to make?
How much do I walk away from
Okay.
the deal with, right?
Yeah, how much wealth do I have in this home? It's the number one tool for wealth, you
course.
know? And so the seller is interested in that, and what do? We do a CMA. Where do we do that from? We've shared that knowledge on the MLS. This is how important the MLS is.
Right.
You know who else uses the MLS? The appraiser uses it. Okay? And so we go to the MLS, we do a CMA, and then what do? We deduct cost, the cost of selling. No different than if you were to go to the grocery store and buy a package of potato chips. Lewis. It's the same concept.
Uh-huh.
From the factory to the shelf. Okay, well, the same thing that we see in real estate. So the seller, when they contact a realtor, what are they looking at? How much is it going to cost for me to put this on the market? And you know what they want the realtor to do? When they walk through the door, what do you think about my house?
Oh, yes, every time.
What do you think about my house?
Can I get more than
And what do
everybody
we
else?
do? We proceed with empathy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get rid of that smell, declutter,
Declutter.
curb appeal. And we may have in our benefit package maybe a free staging consultation, whatever the case may be. But then when we do the net proceeds, what do we deduct? Cost, escrow costs, the cost for procuring a buyer. As a listing agent, I can sell the home, or guess what? I put it in the MLS. The MLS shares it with the aggregator. What is the aggregator? That means it goes everywhere. That means Zillow picks it up.
Back to Zillow, yeah.
That means Redfin picks it up. That means it's all over, not the United States, the world. Mm-hmm. It goes everywhere, okay? So what is the benefit of that for a seller? The benefit is simply the more exposure I have, the better chance I have of getting the proceeds that I want. So are you seriously going to cut off the opportunity of another agent bringing you a buyer? How much sense would that make? Oh, you know, now as a listing agent, you're going to give them the CMA, but you're also going to give them what? A marketing plan. What am I going to do to market this house? Well, I'll put a sign in the yard. I'll put a lock on the door. I'll put it in the MLS. The aggregators will get it. I'll do some open houses. I'll do some flyers. I'll do a digital home book. I'll do an event at the house. I'll expose it to brokers. I'll expose it to the public, da-da-da-da-da. But what if an agent sees it in the MLS and that agent calls me and say, I have a buyer? What compensation are you going to be able to contribute towards this buyer? Would it make sense for you to say zero and you want your proceeds? What would you say if you were the seller? You would say what any seller would say, right? It's going to depend on what? On the price.
Yeah, obviously.
It's going to depend on what they are offering me. It's going to depend on, once I add that in, and any other concessions towards closing costs, it's going to depend on what I have at the very end of the day, the net. That's why I tell agents all the time, it's important that they know what the appreciation is in that particular area. Mm-hmm. Where I live, the average appreciation is running 9%, okay, year over year.
That's insane. That's so fast.
No, it's more insane. If you're in Collin County, it's double-digit appreciation year over year. When you back out mm-hmm. the expenses. If I sit and backed out normal maintenance, what I tell people, set aside anywhere from 3% to 4% a year for just maintaining the house. Because you know as well as I do, home ownership is great until it isn't.
Oh yes, AC goes out, pool pump goes out, 10 grand. Yeah.
And even if your insurance covers it, most insurance companies now have a 2% deductible.
It's getting worse too. They're going to even bigger deductibles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what does a realtor do? There's some complexities in there. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, they make it look so easy. Why do I need a realtor? In the first place, I can use an app. I can use Zillow. There's some complexities all through this thing. There's processes all through it.
So as a, let's say you're representing the buyer now, and you're not touching the seller. You're representing the buyer. You want to get compensated for your time.
Right.
But that's no longer with the NAR. Was it August 17th?
Right.
Yeah. So what is it that a buyer's representative can do with their client? How do they make their money? Because they're not going to do it for free.
That's such a great question.
Yeah.
Because the settlement didn't say that we weren't supposed to be paid.
Right.
It never said that. It only said that we could not put that offer of compensation in the tool, the technology that we go to find out what's available, to find out the specifics about that home, to share information, and to find out what compensation is being paid. Now, that cannot be on the MLS.
Okay.
You know what it's going to force us to do? Pick up the phone and talk to each other.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to force us to do, to have a conversation. And that conversation is, I have a buyer. We want to submit an offer.
What do you have to offer?
I have a buyer's rep agreement. In other words, that's what the settlement says. We must have an agreement before we even show the home. You know, a lot of buyers may think, oh my gosh, I don't know that person enough for an agreement. Then make it short. Make it for that home. Be more specific. Make it for a day. Make it for a week. Mm-hmm. You know, so that they can get to know you. We've got, you know, your brokerage may have a form that you can use for that, or you can use one of our forms through Texas Realtors that would work for that, a short form, if you wanted to use that. Mm-hmm. You know, those are voluntary forms through Texas Realtors. They're not mandatory. But yeah, I mean, it never said we couldn't get paid. Now, it just means you're going to have to negotiate what you get paid.
What if the seller side just does not want to play ball? I said, nope, I'm not giving you anything.
Oh, that's fine.
So how does a buyer's agent make their money?
That's perfectly fine. Because guess who has options? The seller has options, the buyer does too. Mm-hmm. What are the buyer's options? They have 3 options, don't they? They can choose to pay that compensation themselves. They can choose to predicate that compensation on their offer price.
Okay.
Or they can choose to not see your house.
That's right.
What would you prefer, Mr. Seller?
Yep.
Would you choose that they not sell it at all? And you've been sitting here over the days on the market? The longer you sit, the more money it's going to cost you.
So
yeah. So I mean, it's just real simple. The buyer still has choices.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
A lot of the real estate agents are concerned, the ones that I know at least, as a buyer's rep, that they're going to run into that wall where the seller's agent says, no, we're not giving up anything, and the buyer says, well, I don't really want to pay you for your services because it used to be, it traditionally was, blah, 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 that you just took your money from the seller. So what would differentiate, what would separate, let's say that just in a weird scenario that becomes the norm. Mm-hmm. Then what does a buyer's agent do to separate themselves from the pack where everyone's saying, oh, I'm going to go talk to the seller and see if I can get some money for myself out of that. If that's not working, how does a buyer's agent then go, well, maybe I got packages, or maybe I got this to offer? What would a buyer's agent offer someone to separate themselves? What did you say, 1.5 million agents in Texas?
There are 1.5 million realtors that are members of NAR, but there's 150,000, just right at maybe a little under now, 150,000 realtors. Texas. In the United States of Texas, because we got our own thing going on in Texas here.
So you got
that's a good question.
150,000 competitors. How do you say, I'm different?
Well, you say you're different by, I would say 3 things. Number 1, get the additional education. Mm-hmm. Know what's going on in your area so that you can talk fluidly about it, articulately about it, and you know the word I always use, hyperlocal. Be hyperlocal about your community. Know those businesses. Oh, that's
nucleus.
Right. That's right. You know the businesses. You know the parks and recreation. You know zoning and planning.
An expert in your area.
You're an expert. You can talk about your area. You know what's going on in your area. I ran across a guy. I was at a conference and he was so intriguing, and since I've met a couple of people like this, he built his entire business. He makes 6 figures every year without fail. Done that for well over 20 years. Mm-hmm. On 2 buildings in downtown Chicago. 2 high-rises.
Okay.
Period. That's all he knows. those two high rises
But
in
those are
the
his.
areas
Yeah, he knows everything about it.
in that Chicago area. That's what I mean by being hyperlocal. You're not the agent that's all over the place, because here's the deal: our license is for what? Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean I bob all over Texas selling real estate? It doesn't mean that. It means that I know some areas, but other areas I may know very well. And I mean very well. And guess what? The people in those areas also know who I am.
Of course they do. If
Yeah.
you've done it correctly,
Yeah.
they'll know who you are.
And so back to your hypothetical question.
Yeah.
What if the buyer doesn't want to pay? And what if the listing agent doesn't want to pay? The big question I want to ask is, what would be the benefit in that? What would be the benefit in that? The average homeowner right now, if they've owned their home for at least 10 years, because that's the length of time that most homeowners stay in their homes now, it's 10 years. They're sitting on about $300,000 worth of wealth.
Yeah.
Okay, in some areas they're sitting on over $500,000 worth of wealth, depending on where in the city they are. They're in Frisco or Salina, one of those areas, which is extremely popular. That's the kind of wealth that they're sitting on. How bad do you want that money? Are you really going to throw a rock? And let me tell you what has not changed. Agency law has not changed. The Texas Real Estate Licensing Act has not changed. You have to submit all offers, okay? So a listing agent can't say, well we're not going to pay. You have to submit the offer, okay? And
What you mean by that is you get all
Yeah.
these offers as the listing agent. They're all presented to you. No matter what they say on there, you're obligated to show your seller, your client.
you have to submit
everything.
all offers.
You can't be like, I'm not going to make much on that
the
one. I'm not
seller
showing.
would have to tell you in writing that they don't want to see all offers. Most sellers are not going to do that.
No, you want to know.
Yeah. And so you'll say, hey, I understand that they don't want to, but we're going to submit an offer anyway. And my buyer wants them to contribute such and such towards compensation for their representative.
Right.
Well, we're going to submit it anyway. And then guess what? They're under obligation to do that unless, again, the
They said
listing
so.
agent has gotten in writing from their seller that they don't want to see all offers. But that's the rule.
So that
you
might
submit
be-
all offers. You submit it anyway.
That might be a little bit of a gatekeeper
Yeah.
to try and stop some of the super greedy listing agents from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But agents, we're not the gatekeeper. What are we? We are there to do what? We are the conduit. We're the ones that know the processes. We take them through that. We know the appraisal process. We know the escrow process. We know inspections. We know that that they've got to get the bylaws of the HOA. They know that we need a resale certificate. That they know that they've got to get a seller's disclosure from the seller. There's just things that we know that there's no way that somebody that hasn't been trained. We're professionals at this. Most of us are. Mm-hmm. Now, some of us, and there are 4 things that I feel like an agent really need to know how to do. And the number one, they need to know how to negotiate. Negotiation is so important right now. So important, because you're going to have to negotiate with your client, and you're going to have to negotiate with the other side. Negotiation is really important. Another thing that you must know is pricing. That's why I always recommend the core 4 is what I call it. Get your buyer's representation designation, the ABR. It's free until the end of the year. In fact, I'll teach it to you for free. You get a group of 15, 20 people, you can get a group. I'll come right over here and teach it for you. You don't have to pay me anything. Okay. I am serious. That's how serious I am about that designation.
And what does that do for
oh my gosh.
everybody?
Well, first of all, you can say I'm an accredited buyer's representative. That's already differentiating you. There's less than 4,000 of us right here in Texas. Less than 4,000 out of 150,000 agents here. So that's already a differentiator. And what does that mean to you? That means I have the additional education and the additional skills to help you with the decision making, help you with the negotiation, and to get you through to closing and after closing.
You're promoting that expert
And
again.
you have that additional knowledge that you can impart. Oh my goodness, it's huge. So I always the core four, your ABR is free until the end of the year. Now, if you just go online and take it, you will not get 16 hours of credit. You get 16 hours of credit when you take it.
16.
16 hours of continuing education credit. The SRS, which you have sponsored one of those courses, Lewis.
Yeah.
That's the Seller Representative Services. That is huge because it teaches you how to put together that marketing plan and how to negotiate and explain to your client about compensation and the importance of how you look at compensation. And of course, knowing how to price properties, that's your pricing strategy advisor, and knowing how to negotiate, that's the real estate negotiator. Those four things, oh my goodness, on your brochure, on your flyer, you've already set yourself apart. In fact, I am working to pull together agents with designations and get them spotlighted in the paper, on your podcast, on flyers. All realtors are not the same. Do you think all inspectors are the same, Lewis?
Not even close.
Well, what makes you different?
What makes us different?
Yeah.
We're fast, we're polite. No, truly, no, we are very fast, but I say that we hire therapists before we hire inspectors, because many people, by Texas Real Estate Commission, we have to write down every single thing that's wrong with the house.
Yeah.
And so if you look at any inspection report, even on a brand new house, you're going to think it's going to fall down, because TREC says we have to write all that down.
Yeah.
So I hire a lot of guys that are therapists first and say, I know this looks daunting, but let's go through it and see this is very fixable, this is easy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I believe that I hire those inspectors, like you're saying. There's a difference in inspectors.
And you have different packages, do you not?
We have a lot of packages, you know. I make it very easy for the buyer.
You give they have choices, don't they?
Yeah, we start at economy and we go all the way up to diamond, and there's ones in between, value plus packages.
Do you not think that would work for us as realtors, as buyer's agents and representing the seller?
Giving them a package deal, like here's package A, B, or C.
Yeah.
Pick our bronze, silver, gold.
Yeah. And inevitably, most of them are going to do what? Going to come back and say, you know what? I think I want the premium package. Or I think I want the gold.
Yeah.
I see how you're performing. Let me tell you, people don't mind paying for benefits.
They want convenience, they want good service.
I had a couple, and they were buyers. And I did a buyer's assessment. This hadn't been too long ago. They were referred to me by some other clients. Engineers. All of them work at Texas Instruments. And I'll never forget, they called me and they said, well, we've been referred to you and we need a house. And I said, great. Let me send you some information. Okay?
Okay.
So I sent them their assessment. I sent them a copy of the buyer-tenant rep agreement, because I started using that back when it was approved to use it back in the 90s, okay? I've always gotten buyers under agreement. So I sent them that. I sent them a profile sheet on me, and then I sent them a little booklet on buying your first home. And they called me and they goes, okay, well, we've completed the assessment. We're going to send that to you. And I said, great, we'll meet on Zoom. It's best to meet on Zoom. So the reason why I meet people on Zoom is they can see me, I can see them, and I can help them set the right expectations.
Right.
So I looked at the assessment, and I talked to them about being pre-approved. They have been pre-qualified. So I told them what the difference was before we went out there and started hunting. I told them that as soon as they returned the buyer-tenant rep agreement, we would get busy. I got it 2 days later, okay, because they knew that I knew what I was talking about. I told them how much money they need to buy the house at closing, gave them a good range. They told me where they wanted to live. I helped them understand that they couldn't afford that based on what the lender had said, right? So I said, but here are some other areas. The only problem with these other areas is your commuting distance. And so my next question is, what type of job do you have? Are you hybrid? Do you have to go to the office every day? If you have to go to the office every day, this is going to be stressful for you because they're doing a lot of work in that area on the freeways because so many people are moving in that area, blah, 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 blah. In any event, we found a home. During the consultation, I said, my services are never free. There are times when the seller will come. I've been having that conversation, Lewis, for years. Same conversation, nothing's changed. This is nothing different for me. Shouldn't be anything different for most seasoned agents. If this is something different for you, then something was wrong
From the beginning.
from the very beginning. Because we made these changes back in the 90s. Senate Bill 486, one of them like that, is when that change happened, which would have been like 1994, 1996, when we brought in buyer's representation. So we had that conversation. I told them it's not free. So when they got ready to close, I couldn't go to closing. I was teaching a GRI class. I love GRI. If you're within your first 2 years of getting a license, GRI is the best way to go for that SAE. So in any event, I said, I have access to your vault. Let me go in and see all the things that you've signed.
Yep.
I explained to them the promissory note, went over again what a deed of trust was, told them that they'd be getting a general warranty deed, explained to them that their house payment, the payment book would be different from the group that they're closing with. Just went over the whole 9 yards, right? And I said, and you don't have to worry about compensation. So I put them back on Zoom again, and I said, let's go over your closing disclosure. And I had already sent them the closing disclosure explainer, a tool that I teach agents to use. You just click on it, and it'll tell you what each block says. So they felt good. I told them what all that they had signed, most of their disclosures. There was only a few things left for them to sign. And I said, and call me after closing. I said, my compensation's already been taken care of. Said that twice. They called me and they said, where do you want us to wire your money? And I said, I've already been paid. And they said, well, we feel like you were such a blessing to us, we want to pay you again. We felt like that was them paying you for them.
Uh-huh.
But we want to pay you for us. And I said, well, where did that money come from? This first time. In fact, the fiance was still in grad school. He was working part-time there at Texas Instrument as a technical writer. And she said, I went and took the money out the 401k. Okay, now, people do not mind paying you for the benefits that you bring. They felt like they got informed. Your best client is an informed client, okay? That they felt like they were in a great position, they felt confident, and they went forward, okay? And I just feel like, it's amazing what people will pay for when they say they don't have money, okay?
It's true.
If they see benefit, they'll pay for it. Yeah. How many times have you said, oh my gosh, I can't afford that, and then later you bought it anyway?
Yeah, we've all done that, of course.
Yeah.
It's a good service.
Because you feel like the benefit is there. It's like if I go somewhere for a good meal and I know they have a good reputation, and I sit down, I have my meal, and I'm disappointed, and the reputation is not substantiated by what I got. How do you feel about that? But they still bring you that $150 meal bill for that meal. How do you feel? You don't want to pay it. Mm-mm. You go ahead and pay it, but what do you do after that? You ask to speak to the manager, and you never go back.
Yeah. Give people their value.
Over 80% of people say that they would use their realtor again. Over 80% of people that bought and sold over the last I would say 10 years, have used a realtor. They've used professional guidance, people that are trained to get them through that transaction. And doesn't that make sense?
Of course it does.
Yeah, it just makes sense. I mean, it's the most expensive thing you're going to buy. It's your key to wealth. It's your legacy for your kids. It just makes sense to use a professional and be willing to pay them. It's our livelihood. It's what we study for. It's what we go to school for. It's what we advocate for. Yeah, you know, people think that all we do is bootleg houses. Let me tell you, we go to legislative meetings in Washington. We give to a PAC that is in direct contact regularly with the lawmakers. We have our endeavors, our realtor endeavors, right there on the government page of Texas Realtors, and I guarantee you, for every 10 realtors, if I was to look at how many know what we advocate for, I'd find 2 out of 10.
Maybe.
2 out of 10.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Okay, we took a whole busload of realtors to Austin last year. There were over 2,000 of us. They went into the Capitol to do what? Engage. And you know what we talked about? Infrastructure, affordability, okay, housing, medical, broadband. You know, and the list goes on and on. We're strong advocates of sustainability. We have a sustainability conference every year. People have no idea what we do as realtors. And this is on our time. And furthermore, we don't get paid until the deal closes. Do you know how much time I have given over to people and the deal didn't close? Do you want me to go back and capture 30 years of that? And that you can't get the time back, and time is money.
Of course it is, yeah.
Or the opportunity cost back.
You could have been spending your time with somebody else.
I could have been sleeping.
That
I
too.
could have been doing anything.
That too.
Traveling with my husband. I could have been doing. So I think we've got to do better. We've got to do better on social media. We need to talk about some of the things that we do in order for us to have sustainability in housing, which means that continued growth in wealth. And we need to make that available to everybody. We need to embrace an equal professional model to where what I do for you, I do for anybody that comes to me. It's the same process. We need to work to process our business, systemic, make it a system that what we do, just like you.
Yeah.
When you go to, and that's how you train your people. It's a system that you follow.
We have a lot of systems of practice. Yep.
Yeah, so there's no deviation from that. And for us, compliance is everything. Get rid of the word free. That shouldn't even come in your mouth. I don't even like the word cooperate anymore. We work together for a common goal, and that is the goal of those parties, the buyer and the seller. We're all on the same team here.
You're representing.
Yeah, we're working together for that common goal. And I can tell you, I love real estate. Sometimes I'll ask a question in class, why is it a good time to buy? Why is it a good time to sell? And I have people that are, you know, and I say, put on your realtor hat. Why is it a good time to buy? Well, real simple. We got more inventory. Even though the prices are high, we got more inventory, got more choices. Less multiple offers, even though we do see them in certain areas. There's less multiple offers. It's a good time to buy also. Why? Because the price of homes continue to increase. People say, I'm going to wait 3 years, I'm going to wait 4 years. Do you think that prices are just going to stay where they are?
Not even close.
You know, no. And then is it a good time to sell? Well, it depends. If you're sitting on 2% interest rate, 3% interest rate, you'll think twice. But if you need that money, if the house is too big, if your health has declined, it's all about what? Motivation.
Of course.
It's all about motivation.
Well, Cassandra, thank you for coming on, sharing such
a
wealth of knowledge. I know we could talk for hours about it.
We could. I appreciate you having me, but if you want to get a group of realtors together and let me teach them ABR, I'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of that, We're going to put Cassandra's information down in the description if you want to take one of her classes. Great instructor. I know there's a lot of people that give you a lot of praise. So,
Oh,
if you
and
guys-
we have a lot of fun in my classes. So you'll see me at MetroTex as well
Yeah.
as Collin County Association of
Seen you
Realtors,
both places, yeah.
Austin Board of Realtors, and many times on Texas Realtors online broadcast, and that's all over the place, really. Sometimes I'll teach out of state, and I'll probably be doing more of that in the coming year on some of the things that I want to talk about and encourage agents about. We're not going anywhere. Things are going to change, and they will continue to change. And I want to encourage everyone, get your education. We've got all kinds of free classes for forms. Get those forms classes
Yep,
in,
those are
read
important.
them over and over again so that you understand. Just know that these forms that we have through Texas Realtors are voluntary. They are not mandatory. And if your broker is using other forms, then by all means, you need to be well familiar with those, well familiar with Texas Realtors too. So the reason why I bring that up is you're going to have different forms in the marketplace right now when it comes down to representation. Okay? TREC forms have not changed, and neither has agency. And the way we do agency, IABS, all of that is the same. Yeah. So to reach me, my email address, of course, is Cassandra@realtyconceptstexas.com.
We'll put we'll put that down in the description so
Yeah.
anyone can contact
And then you also have my phone number there. You
Yep.
can put that, either one of those
We'll
or
put it
both.
all in there
Yeah.
for everybody. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to contact Cassandra, if you want to take one of her classes, or if you just need real estate professional
Coaching, I
coaching,
still do
everything.
coaching.
There you go.
And I still sell real estate, you guys, so I'm out here in the trenches with you.
Perfect. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.